Alright, it's the second time I've had my transmission out in a month's time. Anyhow, the flywheel looks okay. I haven't really inspected that too much. I gotta hook up the slave cylinder to everything. I'm gonna use that and bleed it from here, from inside, going through the floor and everything else, which will be good to bleed it that way, I think. Transmission's out. Took me less than 2 hours to do. Transfer case is out. Also took me less than 2 hours to do. Anyhow, I come into the garage here. Depending on which of my parts show up first, I've procrastinated on buying the parts, but that is all that turns it from 2-wheel drive to 4-wheel drive. And I got a rebuild kit for that coming. This is my transmission. With Mom's help, we got it up on the stand here. It is sure is wet. I haven't drained it of fluid yet. I'll probably do that here in a little while. It uses automatic transmission fluid. It's wet. It has some seal leaks everywhere. It has a really good seal leak right here. And as again, poor light in here. Let's see if this thing works. Oh, hey, that way we got lights. Although probably not good light inside. So yeah, you can see good enough. That lower corner is leaking. I'm pretty sure that whole plate's leaking. I think that's where that click, 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 click noise is whenever it's running. It's coming from. I think I got a bad bearing fixing to go out. Anyhow, there's instructions online. They apparently ran these from 1987 to 2003 in the Ford F-Series pickups and F-250 pickups, as I was reading and researching. So, and as I don't know if I told you, I have a service manual for all Fords on my computer in there, and it actually covers the rebuild of this transmission, which shouldn't be a big deal. I don't think there's any difference between them. We'll find out soon enough, I'm sure, sooner rather than later. But yeah, it looked easy to rebuild it. This looked a little bit more time consuming. I'll have to make some special parts for it. There's the shifter I replaced the other day. I'll pull those bolts off. I gotta drain it of fluid. I'd like to clean it up before it, but I can also clean it up after I get most of the innards out of it. But I'm not going to touch this until I have new parts here. It would be silly to do it, because at this point I can always just do a turn-in. But if I do it myself, and then I'm going to have to attach that to the thing and hand bleed it, we'll get the clutch working right. And this definitely feels like it has air in it. It feels like it's a spring. It should have more resistance than that. And everything else feels okay, I think. Everything feels okay. It's a little dirty. But yeah, we'll clean it up and we'll go back to get or take it apart and everything else. Had a lot of leaks. It looks like most of the leaks are right along this line here. And it had a leak up here too, but this stayed clean. I have driven a little bit, but it still looks like it's moist right at the parting line. So anyhow, fun will commence soon, I am sure. And I went ahead and ordered a rebuild kit, a bearing rebuild for this, along with a rebuild kit for the oiler. The pump for this thing is actually in the output shaft, so when the output shaft spins, it oils everything in here. And if you put it in 4-wheel drive neutral and flat tow it, the Fords will actually still spin the oiler, keeping this lubricated. As long as it's neutral, it won't move over to the transmission, so I can flat tow this device. And apparently, my understanding, all Fords are like that, or all Ford F-150s are like that. So this will get clean. It's aluminum. Both these are aluminum housing. I kind of want to paint them because it'd make it easier to see leaks, but I also might not. I could paint it orange. Yeah, who wants to have an orange transmission? I did model cars as a kid. I painted them, and it's like, orange sounds interesting. I could also paint them purple. I could paint them white also, or just leave them as is. It really doesn't matter. It's just a lot of prep work to paint it, but more or less I was wanting to paint it to make it easier to tell if there's ever a leak. And it uses red ATF, or red automatic transmission fluid, in it. So if I paint it opposite color that mixes with red, it should change the color maybe, and tell me really quickly if I have a leak, versus looking for shiny spots. Anyhow, that's it. I might throw a little Dawn on there for a degreasing agent, but like I said, I can also do that whenever I pull it apart and just clean the outside when it's lighter. This thing weighs about 150 pounds. That weighs about 75 pounds. Anyhow, that's where we're at, and it probably won't get done until all the way done until I get back from Colorado. But we got one more load to go up there and get, and go from there. I know this is a new tool I bought. I can't remember what I was bought for. It's some special tool. Alright, see you in a bit. I went ahead and cleaned it up a little bit, mainly at the parting lines up here and there to try to keep some of the crud out of it. Even though I am going to go through it, it's a good idea to keep as much out as possible. They have these little lobes at various spots around here. My guess is this is for a screwdriver to separate it whenever you go to separate it. Okay, well I figured I'd pull the drain plug out and drain the fluid out of it and make it lighter, but that's what came out on the magnet on the drain thing. I'm a little concerned, especially that chunk right there. But it has to be metallic, so I'm hoping it's just the bearing and there's nothing wrong with the housing here. Should have done this right whenever I bought it, but I didn't have time. I'm guessing one of my bearings is gone, and I probably chose the right time to pull it apart. Yeah, that does not look good. Anyhow, it also has a very metallic color coming out. I'm fixing to drop it here. This thing was full. I filled it up to the full line the other day. There should be way more fluid in there than that. Look how shiny, metallic-y that is too. I gotta open that up. Look at that shininess. Look how shiny it is. That's not good. Probably a good thing I'm doing this now than later. I thought maybe I was premature on it, but especially now, I think I'm probably doing it at the right time. This is automatic transmission fluid. Now I put it fresh in there, but that sure is awful shiny and metallic-y. And it should be red, not black. So yeah. Which it's at 149,000 miles, which is the same thing as 150,000 miles. So you kind of get what you get when you get this kind of old vehicle. That's a lot of metal, but the magnet did its job. It held it here and held it next to the magnet. Is that? Oh, I thought that was part of the magnet, but that's just a long magnet. That's just a bunch of sludge on that magnet, as much as it could pick up. Yeah, I bet you when we get into that, we're gonna find a dead bearing somewhere. That's all metal. We'll take this off and put on something else. I wanted to get it out before I left or went somewhere, but let me go find another rag somewhere. I had to remember to go to, when I go to Sam's next, get another little rags for it. Oh, it's my dyno. Let's just see how bad this is, really. I'm gonna get bright orange. I keep changing my color so I know which set. I started out green, then blue, and now I'm on orange. See, I'm gonna hold you right here right now. Oh, they had a lot of metal in there. Okay, there it is after. There's a lot of metal in that drain plug. A lot. This looks like an inner of a bearing race, like the piece that goes between the roller bearings and everything else. That's what that looks like. So, yeah. And see, it's a magnet. It'll hold it. That's what it's supposed to do, is tell you the health of the transmission anyhow. And grab any debris. But it's 150. I'm sure the bearings need to be replaced. Hopefully the gears are still okay. And hopefully they're not ruined too. Oh, it starts out faster. Yeah, I couldn't help but be a little curious here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull off this tower section. I have to get one of those things. See if we can just, look at that. Perfect. There's one on this side too? Yes. There's one there too. I'm going to pull a little bit of that crap away from the mating surface and keep as much of that out of there as possible. This is a Dento pig. It really is actually a dental pig. I got it to do my own tartar. I don't like doing it myself, so it has become a new tool for me to use. I suppose we can just lift up on that and look inside. Ooh, that's pretty. So, there's some blue silicone there. Definitely can tell it's been leaking out the back. This feels like someone had it apart and they just shoved it back together. Same thing there, it looks like. That one look broken? It definitely looks shorter, but it looks like it's the right size, I think. And that's the reverse and fifth. That's first and second. Third and fourth. I was looking here. It doesn't look too bad, actually. Ooh, that looks so pretty. I'm looking for rub and gear. Where? And there's your synchronizer. Here. Let's see if we can get the lights right. You can see the synchronizers. I bet pulling this forward to put them in gear. Well, maybe. Oh, there's a problem. Is that supposed to be like that? I gotta go look at it. You see how there's that input gear right there? What's the input shaft? See how it looks like it's missing half its teeth right there? I'm gonna have to look that up and see if that's a problem. Although both sides have it, so maybe that's not a problem. I probably am. So through all the many videos I've been watching, they said if you move the third and fourth forward and the first and second forward. It actually locks the shaft in so you don't have to hold on to it with any vise or anything else like that. It doesn't look that bad as far as I can tell, but there's a little shiny on that shaft straight down there. You see a little shiny on the edge. That might be where it is. There's definitely some play, but not big play. I think the noise is on that bottom shaft down there. I think that's where my noise has been coming from. Let's see. That's cool. I've never been actually in a transmission before. I've been in a jet engine, but not a transmission. Yeah, everything feels okay for the most part. We got a rebuild kit coming, which is new seals and bearings, which is apparently what normally goes out. And apparently that flat spots is part of the install procedure. So once you get this off and this out and this internals, the way you have to get this out is you've got to angle it a certain way, and that flat spot helps you angle it a certain way, is what I understand. Oh, no, there's a flat side on both sides. Well, that's interesting. And not much here as far as that. Look, there's some shiny there. See the shinies on the end on that one. Anyhow, we had metal, so, and it was shiny, so something's wearing out. Probably one bearing in there that's going out, because there's something making click, 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 click noise whenever it's running. There's that. Right. Okay. Well, after researching a little farther on how to tell if my synchronizer gears, because the points where you'd think that they connect and slide over look pretty good, but what you're looking for is this space right here, how it slides down on the cone, and how much place you have there, and how grippy they are. Because they go on a cone on the gear, and that's what causes the clutching action. That's what causes the clutching action. So like this one here, you see how spacious it is there? If I push it down and you don't have much play in it, granted I'm pulling at an angle, you see how little space there is? That's the inside wear on them. And that's what you're looking for. You're also looking for left and right play. You want to make sure that it ends up on one of these things, because this is where it aligns everything up. On either side of that, pretty good. And that one does left to right okay. It still slides over this way a little bit farther than this way. And then you see this one here. I'm testing out a new light today. I got or bought. You see that one kind of slides down, so that has a little play on it here and there. So I did order a new set for those. Also, this is my four-wheel drive shifter holder. It goes from here back to the transfer case. And I pulled it off right here because I didn't have the bolt. Now the bolt that hooks up to the trail shaft here is a 13/16. You can get it at like one of those stores that sell big stuff. And this one right here is 1 inch and 1/8, and it goes on that bolt there. You know, fixing to bring it off the giant cheater bar. So that's good. I got a power steering rebuild kit. I'm going to rebuild the power steering fluid thing too. I just don't know how far apart I want to get with it. I could get it done and back together before I even touch on the transmission. You hear the squirrels dropping pecans on our head. And I just noticed something when I was doing this inspection here. You see how this profile of this looks funny? Has kind of a raised section here, but it's wore off. Also has a raised section here that's kind of worn off. You notice how this also has, it looks like it has a raised section. It almost looks like it's machined perfectly for this. I was looking at this one. You see how this profile looks good and it has a raised section and it drops off here? I'm thinking this is how it's supposed to look. I have not double checked this yet, but this is what I'm thinking. It has a little radius there, but you see how this side looks nice and thick? You see how thin this one looks? I think this is first and second. Yeah, this is first and second. And if someone used the gear shifter as a handhold and just held their hand on it, didn't push it in gear, and they just used it to hold their hand, that would mean that would be up and to the, that'd be second. This would be second. So the wear would be right here on this side of it. And you see how thin that is? That shouldn't be that thin. So I think what happened is the bearing went out and it had a bunch of metal shavings going on it. And being that someone just rested their hands on it, this one probably should be as big as this one. Same thing with this one. It has a little bit of wear on it, but not near to the same extent as this. So I think I'm going to order a first, second shift fork also and go ahead and replace that out, because I'm pretty sure that this is supposed to have this raised section there. I don't know if you can see it. You see how there's a raised section right there? And there's probably supposed to be a raised section there, and that's what's supposed to hold or ride on this idler piece here. So learning about all the inspection points, same thing here. This side looks a little wore down too. It's probably why my gear shift's so loose, first and second, and I might just go ahead and order all three of those. And this one may be a new gear here. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm thinking that's what's going on there. I thought maybe it was just a machine part, but yeah, the difference between them. I'll look online when I order the new parts, and we'll see if the new parts look good. But that's also something to be done while the transmission is in the truck too, so I could push it off if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. I'm here, I might as well do it. Got the four-wheel drive shifter off too. And you see there's, I don't know if you can see it here, hang on, I keep losing my camera. You see the shiny right here coming in? There's a, I'm guessing that maybe my synchronizer gears are gone on this rear. This is my rear and 5-speed. This is first, second, third, fourth. Actually, is that fourth? No, that might be the main input shaft. That's the main input shaft. Sorry, that's not fourth. I think fourth is below that somehow. Anyhow, I know this is first, second, third. I guess if you, oh, okay, so that is fourth. That is also the input shaft gear. So apparently fourth translate below also. It's probably just how they got wired. So yeah, whatever. And this is fifth in reverse. Yellow light we can look down in there. Ooh. But I will see about getting me some new shift forks too for this. So just as long as they were allowed to embrace what it was that they like to do, they sell, not only fit in, but they sell. And it was like, no, you need to learn this and this and this too. Then it was like, no, that's not what I do. Well, I found all the leftover metal that came off that first shifting ring. It's all sitting as a sludge, and I'm hoping that's all the shiny metal and where it came from. It looks like it's a driver error, not. Alright, got the tail shaft off. Actually had the bolt. We used 14 millimeters to get the tail shaft bolts out. They're going in this bag and it's being stored with it, so I'm trying to keep most of this organized as much as I can. This one I'm gonna have to use a pipe wrench on it, and it's 2 1/10 of an inch across. I don't have a metric one, otherwise I'd tell you the metric one, but it's really big. This one right here is that one, and this one uses a 1 1/4 inch. I don't have one that big. I was thinking about going down to the auto store and getting one. Honestly, I'm glad I'm getting into this. As much metal shavings is floating around this transmission, it's really a good thing that we're getting in here. I found a bunch of sludge spots everywhere too. Anyhow, my understanding is this has to be off before this whole thing can come apart. And go ahead and probably remove this one here and take it down from there, and just lift up and go through the whole thing. I don't have any parts, but I do have these bags that I'm keeping a lot of the parts together in, so I don't have to have it perfectly laid out. And in case it's a longer time, one, keeps it safe, 2, keeps everything together. I'll have to go in there and pull up the torque specs on it. But yeah, there's a lot of metal in here. A lot of metal in this transmission. That sludge right there is all metal from certain spots of the transmission. And yeah, that thing is definitely going out. I got a new one on order. It'll show up. I checked it. As soon as I get a new piece, it should slide right in here. It's very smart about making the wear parts easily replaceable versus the parts on here. So anyhow, gotta try to get that other one off. Anyway, just a little bit farther down, we got the gears off. I pulled off this section. There's a spring in there that went flying, and some of my dogs came off on my synchronizing gear. I don't know if I'll be able to find that. My better bet's probably just to order me another one online and have it sent here. But this one's also ready to come off. I want to find somewhere to spread this out in the right order, because I don't really trust myself to be able to get everything in the right direction and everything else. You see the arrow there? You might be able to see there. Pointing out, that means this plate goes up, and that's how it goes up. Don't want to get these backwards. I found another, oh yeah, you can kind of see the metallic, this there, in that corner. I found me another chunk of metal. This ain't perfectly done. There's this was in there. It looks like a race to a bearing. That, or is that other metal thing wearing out? But that does look like a race to a bearing to me. I'm betting we'll find a dead bearing in here somewhere. It's probably a good thing we're going into it. I don't quite have the full confidence to do what I'm doing right now. Just heads up. And there's several times in my life I do this. I'm jumping in. I'm trying to keep everything organized in its own little bag. But I'm going to have to get those synchronizing gear pieces. I'm going to also have to go to the book and look at them. I might just see about getting them. I already have these coming, the synchronizer gears. I wouldn't plan on taking this off. But there's a little spring in there and a ball bearing that I got. I have it attached to a magnet right here. Yeah, I need more room to spread out, because what I want to do is put this on a table and spread the whole thing out as it goes together, so I can just lay up the pieces, because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get this together before I have to go take care of some other stuff. I would like to get it together, or just have it laid out so I can get it together. I apparently assumed I'd have more room to work than what I do. Maybe I'll call Mom and see if she has a table I can put up and something I'd set this stuff in, because I'd hate to have it all spread out and then have it get knocked over. Anyhow, let's get it done. Let's make it really quick. I think the smaller one on top is my reverse gear, but to show you, it looks like, as on this one here, it looks like there's damage there, right at that point that looks like someone ground the gears trying to get in reverse. I'll see how much a cluster of this is. This here with the meshing of the smaller gear on that rear shaft. But I think this is 5th, and I think that is reverse. And it looks like someone ground it to get it in reverse. And it could be that thing's gone. The bearing is gone. This thing. This actually just sits on there as a cone bearing, and that's what makes it synchronize. It may not have grabbed. There's some metal, a lot of metal in here that are large chunks of pieces. So we'll see. I'll look it up later. Anyhow, I'm taking off. That piece right there is coming off now. I'll put that in the bag and we'll go from there. Let's see if I can get it laid out here in the order it goes back together and go from there. Probably a good thing I am getting into it early, because now I get to find what else extra parts I need to get. It'll still be a week before I get back together, which is sad. I'll do this really quick. Anyhow, that's out. That was a pain in the butt. I wish I was recording it, but I am running out of power right now. Anyhow, I found the source of, I think, our metal right there. And if you think it looks familiar, it is very familiar, because it's one of these things. And this one looks like the gear shift rope on this, and whoever owned it at some point in the last pass has replaced it. I just got done doing the pieces on this and replaced all the pieces on there and make it ship well. And I don't know what you have to do to break off one of those, but it definitely was not standard use for sure at all. Anyhow, that is in the bottom, and there's a lot of metallic down there. You can see it as it flows slowly forward. I haven't really looked at my races. They look used, but they don't look bad. I don't have any going. I'm feeling in here with my hands. Yeah, they feel good. I think we'll get away with the rebuild. I do have to find that spring for that back piece. Once I get that, it'll be fine, and we'll be going back together. I'll take this out there and clean it here in a bit. But yeah, who would have thought? That's on the bottom of the transmission. I did find a couple more metal pieces in here that doesn't look like it, but it could be for that one gear dog. That was in the bottom too, and that looks like a bottom race. But we'll see once we get this one all apart, because whenever I pulled this one out, this one's free floating, and it's supposed to be stuck in there. It's not supposed to be not free floating, so there might be something more going on with that. Anyhow, that's where we're at. Been watching that tree change colors over the last 2 weeks. It feels like it's been months, but it's been only 2 weeks. It's a much needed break to come here anyhow and get all this done anyways. Very pretty. Anyhow, we are on our way back together. I have been cleaning. I got the new bearings. I don't think I have these synchros, and that's because it's falling off the tree, by the way, but it's for 92 and up, and I couldn't find any information what makes this different than this one here, so I'm going to send those back to Amazon where I got them. Let's see. To remove or get this in, you got to pull this bottom shaft out and drop it down, and then you can move this piece in and out. This is your input shaft for this equipment, and it looks like I need to drop it down again. It's set up to drop the other shaft that I still have to put together in there. It's very, they said it's very simple. I definitely need new bearings. I don't know if I showed you this the other day, but add on to the stuff I pulled out the other day, this was in there, and this was in the bottom of the transmission, which means someone broke it, and instead of replacing it or pulling it apart. They just left it in there and replaced the part. And then there's this thing here. This is the first second shifter, which I described earlier. That's all worn. And either this one was worn and it was replaced and this one is left, or this is aluminum or something else. More likely someone just ran it dry for a while. That's also probably why my bearing screamed at me. I think the guy knew that ran dry and he didn't say anything about it to sell it and leave it for me. Hang on. Gotta reposition my table. If you ever get the chance to buy an old gurney, they're awesome. They're great workstations. I mean, the middle ones are great too, but this one has been handy because it can go up, down. Let me show you here. Up or down. I'm not going to put it down because I actually need it up higher. You can adjust the height, you can move it around, you can roll it however you want. Just don't use, well, when you put your boards on it, make sure it doesn't interfere with the sides, on at least one side, so you can raise the backing on it too. But yeah, old medical equipment, emergency gurney, as long as you get over the whole fact that someone probably died on it, I'm sure, or something, lost it, all the grossness on it. You can clean these things just fine. But Mid-Mark 530. This one rolls around great. I can adjust it, I can work on it. It's my, before I found that table, it was my first workbench that I've had that I've loved. This floor is not level at all. Anyhow, I gotta get this assembled, and apparently all the surfaces, well, not all, some of the surfaces that were leaking use gasket maker for the surfacing, mating surface, which I thought was interesting, but they use very little gasket mating key. I still think someone's been into this transmission before. I don't think it's original. The wear patterns, well, I don't know. There's a lot of metal in there for as little wear as on the bearings, but it's out, it's clean, new bearings going in, going back together. And I will be able to tell if it's going to work right before I install it into the vehicle, because it's so simple. I got my transfer case rebuild kit. That's not going to happen until I get back. I got to go back to Colorado for a little while and take care of some business there. Get my friend, get out of storage units. I've been in storage units there for about 6 months, and about that 6 months was my time that I decided that would be worth it just to bring it back to home and store at home for now, because then I can come back and visit parentals and everything else. It doesn't look like me finding a workshop abroad or around it's going to be a feasibility. Anyhow, you gotta pick my poisons, whether I want to travel or when I want to work. So I choose travel, and I need to make money. It had a lot of metal, and it's a good thing I get into it, because it was going to destroy itself. It had bearings fixing to go out. It was fixing to kill itself, and probably take the aluminum housing with it. So we'll do this. We'll do the transfer case. We'll get hooked back up. Oh, and we'll bleed the clutch before we do any of the other stuff. But I want to get this together before I go out of town for about a week and a half. And whatever, it'll be cold whenever I get back. I've been racing for 6 months trying to get ahead of the cold, because I've been looking at land, trying to get a different position set up, a place to set up, so I wasn't moving stuff in the cold or bad weather. And holy cow, I'm moving stuff in the cold and bad weather. Technically, the end of December, when it gets mid-December, when it gets bad down here. Up there, it gets around the 1st of December, it gets bad. They've already had their first snow there. So we'll just see. And I would like to set up in Colorado Springs, so we'll see about that. However, doing Colorado Springs doesn't allow me to have the honeybees in that side. So they'll stay here. But it's nice and clean now. I'm very happy it's clean. I wish I could paint it, but I'm not going to. I don't have the time. And I'd much rather get it together before I'm gone, or before I'm away. So anyhow, I pulled off the assembly and disassembly instructions off my YouTube, or off my channel. Not my channel, but my thing. Anyhow, that's that. Alright, finally found the information I've been searching on the internet. Apparently I had to go to the book and find it out and read through the instructions to find it. Okay, so the difference between the 94 and up assembly synchros is, it doesn't seem to be the shape, it doesn't seem to be anything else other than the old one's missing 2 teeth 180 degrees apart. In the book it says that's what you need, which I don't know how if the book's a 97 and updated synchro, the book says that's what you need to help it keep from jumping gear. So if you're spinning and you can't get it into gear, having a couple teeth missing helps you grab hold of it and really get it into gear, apparently. Or at least that's what it says in the book, and that kind of makes sense. Not really, but whatever. Let's see. And that goes on the dot. There we go. There's 180. There's the middle one. That's the dot, and that's where it goes up in the alignment according. Oh, actually, that one has it on all 3 corners. But it's not with the other thing. So, and the new ones do not have it. So pick your poison. And let's see, that one is that one there. And see, this one only has, oh, that must be a new one. See, we got too many things going on now. But the other things I can say is it has a chamfer at the top, and the old one doesn't have a chamfer up there. The degrees looks right, and everything else looks right. It has the same number of teeth. It's just missing one. And it actually, I mean, I need a filler gauge to tell. I do not have a calibrated hand at all for this. But with as much metal in it, and they look good. That's the thing. I'm trying to decide if I want to file off that one gear tooth and make it match. I'm kind of very tempted to do that. But like I said, I am not an expert at this. I'm sure someone's screaming at me or will scream at me after this video's up. Tell me, you can't do that. And I'll be saying, I know, because I'm tearing apart the transmission at this point in time again. So, but as far as I can tell, there's not anything different. It said, what's it say? M5 R2 Synchro ring kit 92 and up Ford F-150. And it's part number 78286. But they all have it. But all these middle gears are the same. The only one that's different is the reverse and the fifth gear. And that's the one that has a little bit of grinding on it, but not really. I'm going to just leave it. It's $100 for the gear set. I'm not a professional at all. I'm not going through and doing all the measurements I should be doing and everything else that should be done for what I'm doing. So I guess the gamble is, actually I can call one of the transmission places in town and ask them. I don't know if they'll give me the free information or not, but it would be nice to know. I think I'll do that. I think that's a good bet. And if I screw it up, I guess I'll be taking it to them to have work done. Actually, if I screw it up, I'm just replacing this with a remanufactured one from the company or a new transmission. I'm not going to try to cut in here again. I thought it was a cool thing to do and check out and see if I could save some money, but I am not doing this professionally, and I am not doing all the measurements. I'm not dropping the filler gauge in there and measuring everything. The smart decision is to leave these where they belong, kind of thing, and this not replace the synchros because it shifts just fine, actually, and they look really good for their age. It makes me think this is a rebuilt transmission anyhow, and it might be why it leaks and it looks so good, other than it had some pieces down in it, which means they probably didn't clean it or someone did something stupid. So we'll see. Well, apparently a lot of people don't work on standard transmissions anymore. Apparently a lot of people specialize in the field of automatics, so I only called one guy. I feel guilty about taking up their time to ask them a question because they're working on hourly wait. So I'm just going to sit here and read through the instructions, see if I can find any more information on it and everything else, and we'll make a decision if we want to cut the teeth off or not. I mean, I guess that makes sense. Okay, anyhow. Oh look, there's a synchronizer gear. You see how it moves? It just aligns it up. Okay, let me explain how these things work. It's really cool and simple. It has a cone. This has a cone on it, and this has a cone on it. You see those grooves there? Those grooves are friction, to create friction. So if it's loosely hanging on there as it's spinning, this will sit here and spin in the fluid, and it'll just sit there and float on the thing. But whenever you engage or put pressure on it, like your shift fork moves this thing down or up, and it pushes into that, causing a friction connection. And the waves actually create sharp edges, and it pushes the fluid out of the way and actually makes contact and gets the gear spinning with everything else. So there's loose, and you put pressure on it, they're spinning. And that's how they work. And the wear surface, it can be these rings here, but not really. These rings, the end pieces here are not your wear pieces. Your wear pieces is the cone on the inside, and that surface right there, and they're made out of brass. So these take the majority of the wear versus the metal or steel that these are, and that's a machined surface there. And so these are what wears out on this. That way you don't have to replace the expensive ear part over here. You just replace the synchros. And I'm thinking about just doing it and trying it. There's nothing else I see wrong with it. Everything else lines up. It's just it doesn't have the missing teeth here like the older one. And I could go through and remove those teeth, and I might do that. I'm sure someone will be yelling at me, "Don't remove the fucking teeth!" And I'll say, yeah, I know. I did it anyways. I got the parts here, and as far as I can tell, that's the only difference. And I know I need to replace that reverse one. I have some damage on it. These are really good looking, in my opinion, for the surface and wear and everything else. But they did have a lot of metal in there with them. A lot of metal. So I think that's what I'll do. I think I'll cut those off. I think I'll line them up, clamp them together, take a file, maybe an angle grinder to them, and cut out those teeth. smooth it up, clean it up, and throw it on there and call it good. And we'll find out really soon. But the biggest difference between this one and the old one is the chamfer on that inside edge. I'm guessing that's to let more fluid out faster so it shifts in faster, something along those lines. Also, actually looking at that more time, you see how that has these relief cuts to let the fluid out? This one has relief cuts that go all the way through it. And see how that does that? I'll match up some of the other things and see how this one has cuts that go all the way through. I bet that's to help better engagement too. But yeah, I'm gonna read through the instructions, make sure I'm not doing anything really screwy. But I think having those cut out there probably makes it get into gear better actually than the other thing. So yeah, I think maybe we will use these, looking at them and understanding how they work, and explaining to you how they work from my understanding of how they work. So anyhow, we should just throw it together and see if it works better. But it says updated version 92 and newer. But yeah, I'm guessing that running that relief cut and then running those lines all the way through is probably the difference. Yep, that's it. And having all the teeth there, the alignment teeth. Maybe the alignment teeth really didn't make a difference. Oh no, my instructions are from the 97 and newer, so everything else looks the same. Let's make sure everything feels okay. That or I'm doing something sketchy. Oh, well, we need to do something sketchy anyhow, so why not? There's that. It feels loose in there. Let's see, does this one feel loose? We should get the calipers out on this and make sure everything feels the same. Nope, it's a little bit tighter, but not much. Let's see. It looks the same. But I don't have a caliper. I'm not calipered eyes, you know, but it looks the same as much as it can. I'm going to use them. I keep the old ones, but I'm going to use them. I got them here, why not, right? Everything else looks the same. And the part numbers are the same as every other one, so let's see. That's the biggest thing. See how it, here. This is if you need to check a part. That's why you keep your old parts for your new parts and check it up. But see, everything looks like it lines up perfectly. Granted, these have very little wear for the age, which makes me think someone's been in there and replaced it. But the biggest thing is that relief cut there. I bet that pocket there probably causes fluid to get trapped in there. And then it probably makes it hard to engage because it gets an air pocket or fluid and causes hydraulic action. But I could just take out that one tooth on each of these. What do you think? That's the only difference that I really see. And we're looking at really closely the relief cuts. I'll ask my friend what she thinks. Alright, bye. Alright, got it together enough that it shifts and moves. It's a little stiff, but most of the stiffness is from the assembly grease. So it's going to probably use a little assembly greases to put it in place where you're not going to have lubrication for a while. I kept it off this and used ATF on the brass rings. I ended up throwing the old brass rings in it because I'm not really sure about the new ones, and it worked before. I did replace all the bearings that came in the bearing kit, and that's what we're going with. Like I said, I'm not doing any measurements on this. I'm literally replacing, pulling the metal out of everything, and going back together. I'm pretty sure the shafts need to be replaced. I don't want to do a full rebuild on this. I just want to get it down the road so I can start working out of it and use it for what it's meant to be used for. So I figure I'd probably get 50 to 100,000 miles out of it as it sits. Everything else looks good. If not, we can come into it, or later on I can buy a brand new one or a rebuilt one later on. This is more about just getting us down the road farther. But the bearings have been replaced. I gotta check all my tightness of it. I'm fixing to drop in the fifth and the reverse gear right now. That's what I'm fixing to put in and get it back together. I can't put the shift forks back, or it back together until the new shift forks are here for it, or at least that first second shift forks back in. But I can get everything else back together, and that's something I can do after the fact. And once this is together today, if I can get it together today, tomorrow I'm going to be leaving it sitting here for a while. Same thing. That's why everything's in bags underneath it. I figure there's going to be a rainstorm between now and I get back and unload everything on it. So, and I got the transfer case rebuild kit there. It's all bearings too and seals, so it'll stay dry and looking good underneath there. I wish I could paint that, but that's not this time. If I buy a brand new one, maybe I'll get it painted. That would be nice, right? But for right now, it should work. It should get rid of that click, 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 click. And if that click, click, click is still there after it's rebuilt, I know where the problem's at. And basically it needs this whole shaft replaced and I'm just not doing that right now. But we'll see. We'll see. It shouldn't be there, but we found all the metal that was gone and all the metal that's throughout the transmission, which new gears should take care of that too. So we'll see. If not, we'll revisit it later on. God, that'd be horrible if that click was still there, though. Anyhow, after this together, I'm going to bleed the clutch system with a hand/bench bleeding where I can touch both sides at the same time, which sounds weird, saying it out loud, but I'll get that bled too. And we'll see about... I don't really think there's enough time to get ready to travel, eat dinner, and get this up in there and together before I leave tomorrow, so we'll see. It would be nice though, right? Alright, we're back in Oklahoma. We got in late last night. It was dark. I was tired. I didn't function well anyhow. I didn't hear the jets are taking off at the Air Force Base here. Anyhow, they got some snow while we was gone. So yeah. We'll save the 2023 video for a later time. But anyhow, we're getting started back on this thing. Guess a good thing I put everything in bags and hung as many as I could up off the ground so they didn't get damaged from the snow, rain, and everything else. Just think, when we started this project, there's no leaves. They're still in the trees. And it has since been about a month since I've worked on it. I mean, I pushed it hard, but I also knew that it would be mid-project to work on it. Gotta get that off there. Anyhow. Oh, it smells like skunk. And there goes part of the ceiling still. I got the piece in last night for my... I'm still waiting on that one shifter bar to come in, but I got the piece in for my reverse gear last night, and everything looks like it matches up. I want to wait until this morning until I double checked everything. It does not have a dot on the reverse gear, and everything else looks okay. It looks like it's a perfect match for the old one. So the reason this is getting replaced is, you see that gear's kind of smashed there and off center. Someone ground this gear at one point. It's not bad. I could have made it work. I really could have. Just fine. But the synchronizer here has lost all its teeth on it. You can see there. This one has more teeth on it. But it lost its synchronizing teeth. And this piece had some issues with it. So I just went ahead and bought a reverse gear kit for this. New reverse gear. It's pretty much the exact same thing. It's not as much wear on it. It would still work as it was, but I'm here, so why not? So I set this aside. We're not going to use that thing. We're going to get this together. There is no back and forward, and as far as I can tell, this is about the same on either side for it, and it looks comparatively the same. This one has a little bit different on the profile there, but I don't see that it would be a big deal with it. So we are going to try to make it work. Let me double check this, because yeah, it has a square versus taper in on one side, but I don't really see a problem. Everything else lines up perfectly fine. So, and it doesn't look like this side, and it doesn't look like it really matters too much. We'll find out. If it doesn't work, then we might be in the back half of the transmission again. Anyhow, to line these up, there's these pieces here. That's what these keyways go into, which also go into this here. And what we're going to do is just pull that one off. That's the other piece that goes in between that. This, however, does have a forward and backwards on it. As you can see, this side sits in, this sits on the 5th gear, this side's on the reverse gear, and I'm guessing these are oil passages to help move oil back and forth. So let's get this thing going. And we need this in the middle of these things here, which I'm going to have 2 hands to do this, so I don't know if you'll be able to see what we're doing. Set this aside. We got a ring here, and it goes around there. We can use that ring to help hold everything into place to get the other ring in. And we really need to get this other piece on. So try to get that right in the middle there. That will help us get everything into place. You might have to lift this up to adjust it a little bit here and there. There's that. We don't need this thing popping out on us. It does have a wear groove on it. Let's see if we can get it on the other side. It's gonna be a pain. See this ring, we could actually pull the ring out, but everything I said is install it with the ring there. It helps installation issues. So one needs to do the same thing. Sounds like Mom just got here. Sure, this one's on the inside of that ring too. Perhaps it's supposed to go on the outside. Yeah, it's supposed to go on the outside. Of course it is. It's been a while since I messed with this. A month and a half. That one didn't go. Did not take on that one. Did not take on that one. That one did take. So let's see if I can get this shoved in the right hole. Shove these all back in there. Almost popped it out. Let's get this other one put in. And yeah, this goes in here. And there we go. We've got our gear shift slider in position. You don't want to ever run it too far out because it will actually pop them out because the pressure is pushing out, and the ring's what keeps it in position, and those grooves is what keeps it in that position. So anyhow, I heard a vehicle. I don't know if I've seen a vehicle yet. Anyhow, so this goes on this section here. And this doesn't have the missing rings like the other ones, so I think it can go in here kind of however it needs to. It needs that sliding back and forth thing to help line it up whenever the gear is engaging. And let's see. Let's go ahead. This one's going to be fun to install. This goes on there like that. This goes down like this. And let's see, does this one have any special things? That sits on the shaft there, and this one has the grooves, so the grooves have to be adjusted in such a way that it's right on top of everything. So that slides on there like that, and then this slides on the shaft. I'm sorry if you're not seeing all of this. It's like this. But there is one more piece we're missing, because that's supposed to have that piece in there to help move the oil. I think it's part of the oil adjustment, and that's my reverse and fifth gear stack. It should be anyhow. See how it clicks up and it engages it. Once it clicks up, it should be able to go all the way up and engage it to the shaft. That drops down. Same thing with the lower one. It should engage that when you slide it up and down. And it'll just sit there and rotate. So that is my first or fifth and reverse gear. You also got me a couple new nuts to hold everything on. So that is my new gear cluster, my reverse. So we can go back together with everything else. I do need to, because that's going to have to go in there with this here, is going to have to go in there as one big cluster kind of thing, except for that gear has a special alignment to get on there with everything else. I also need to check the torques on those and get the torques for those, and then that shifter fork goes in here, and there's another shifter fork that goes in here. And it's been about a month since I pulled this apart, but so far it works just fine. Everything feels good. You can buy a new shaft for $150. I'm literally just trying to get rid of the knock noise and get it where I can get some use out of it, and I can rebuild it again later on if I need to. I figure I can get another 50 to 100,000 miles out of it. That might be my idler gear. What's this say? Rear. Let's see. That's my idler gear. That's my rear drive shaft gear. That's the coming out. That's what this translates over to this gear here. Probably through the idler gear. I'm gonna have to look up some stuff to get back together. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. So we can get this back together before I forget how it goes together. Right. And then we can get the clutch finished bled, and I might pull the flywheel off and still have it ground down. But get that done also. So, you know, that's where we're at. Alright, well, I'm mostly back together. I had to rearrange. I had two split washers that go underneath this thing. Set up in the arrangement. I was like, that doesn't seem right. So I finally found it, looked it up on a video and found it. This probably should have been replaced, but it should hold still regardless. You know, everything's in its place. Bolts and nuts are tightened down and torqued. This one I could not tighten down. I do not have the ability to do that. Oh, it's dripping outside. I was like, wait, am I already making a mess? I put some automatic transmission fluid, surprisingly enough, the manual uses. So, anyhow, everything shifts into gear and it shifts out of gear, and it feels like it's working right. We'll never know for sure. Because this has so much scarring in the bearing races, I'm afraid that's just too much, and if I get in here again, it'll probably be just to buy a new one or another rebuilt one. So I'm not too concerned about this one. The bearings have been replaced. The metal pieces, and let's see, this is a little digital torque thing. The metal pieces, which was, this was in the bottom and that one was in the bottom. That's part of the bearing race. I couldn't find the source of the bearing that it came from, and this one was part of the shifter. Someone's been in there before, which explains why this thing leaked so much. And this one, probably these shift forks have been replaced, and that metal could be from the shift fork. I don't know for sure. I'm not gonna worry about it. Biggest thing is get rid of that horrible annoying click 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 on the input shaft, and that's new input shaft. I gotta check the torques on the front one. I'm letting the gasket maker set up so I can put it together and squeeze it down. It needs to set up first so it gets a nice seal on it, and get all the metal shavings out of it. If I decide I want to rebuild it next time, I will do a more proper job, being I'll measure it and everything else, but everything seems okay. It all looks like it's been into. I'm thinking it's a rebuilt transmission already, but I don't know for sure. Replace this rear reverse gear and synchronizer and alignment thing. It should all work fine now. It all shifts fine now. And so I have a new shift fork for first and second coming in. Everything else looked new. I'm thinking the last person's been in here also did it. But we have assembly lube on a lot of the components here, not on the clutch surface for the synchronizers. I left that all ATF because of how that surface works. So anyhow, I'm going to check the torque on the front of it. Well, actually, I'm going to put the back of it on here and then check the torque on the torque on the front of it. Torque all these down, and then I'll leave it sitting aside with the shift fork area off of it, and we'll start on the transfer case next. And there may be another trip in here because we still got business over in Colorado that we got to take care of before we head back up there before the weather gets bad. I need to get the rest of my stuff out of storage and bring it back here, so I'm not paying for it for 6 months straight or something like that. And perhaps we can make it to the desert this year also on top of everything else. But this has to be together, and preferably we're towing it too, so we'll see about that. Finally got an empty weight on the trailer, and so I know how much I can load it up and how cautious I need to be with the weight, and go from there. So we could probably pull the truck out there. Would need a better setup. I really think we need a better setup for Erin. She's coming out with us. At least that's the latest plan. So we go through, reduce our stuff, check out the desert, hang out there for a while. I would like to bring the truck with us, which means I really need to get this done. And maybe we'll move to Arizona. Who knows? Maybe we'll move back here. We'll see. We'll see what's going on. We'll talk about 2023 later on, what has all happened this year, and maybe, I don't know. Anyhow, there's that. I'm gonna put this back on it, torque it all down. Lucky me, they put it in the 97 or from the 87s to 2003 models, so I have the ambulance book in there that tells me how to do all the work on it. I gotta pull some drain or check and make sure there's no metal shavings in the transmission rear end or something that I noticed a couple times. Check that before we go back too. So lots of work, no time to do it, but let's get it done. This noise it makes only whenever the clutch is disengaged. I rebuilt the transmission, trying to get rid of it. Has a new throwout bearing, new clutch, new bearings in the transmission other than the roller bearings. Don't really want to pull the whole thing apart again, but that noise drives me nuts. Alright, so replacing input and idler shaft, because it could be, the noise could be from gear slap of loose gears. I think it's something tied with this because it's so loose. So you got new parts and new brass synchronizers. And considering that this, yes, you're a kitty cat. And this is the one that I believe was there, and see how it's wore? It's thicker on the edges and thinner on top, which makes me even more think that it was sliding around like this. So I got, I'm sorry, she's very vocal, she adopted us. So we're going to replace this, these, and the brass inserts, plus the springs that hold these in place. That's the only thing I can figure that noise can be, or gear slap. So I got to pull off the races on both these, and this bearing off of this, and then I got to pull this one apart again. So, yeah. Alright, this is the finish of my transmission rebuild video. I went ahead and pulled it out again to do a full rebuild on it. I replaced input and the idler shaft on here. I think it's just worn out that much. I did get a signed letter saying that it had 149,000 miles and not 249,000 miles on it, but sometimes I wonder. But transmissions usually need to be rebuilt about 150,000 miles. Manuals usually get a little longer on it, but I figured that whenever I bought it. Anyhow, I went ahead and replaced those two inputs. It seemed to fix the noise, but I went ahead and also replaced the springs on here, along with the synchronizers, which are these devices here. It's a cone-shaped brass wear piece that's designed to wear out whenever you're synchronizing. It's designed to slow it down enough that you can get it in gear. Replace those, plus the springs on the sliders here. And replace the back plate and replace the gears, or not the gears, but the bearings underneath those, the needle bearings. So at this point, other than gears, it's had pretty much a full rebuild on it. And I'm filling that up because it's so much easier to fill it from the top with transmission fluid than it is to go through those little tiny holes on the side. I did start it up and running. The noise is gone. I still think it's probably this gear lash that was making the noise. But it's nice to have it. It feels very nice. I still gotta put some other pieces on it. I am considering putting a infrared sensor somewhere in here. I might end up somehow, oh no, where's that piece at? I might end up putting it either in the top cover on the side piece here of a sensor with a little white line here, an infrared sensor, because I do plan on towing it. Something to monitor and make sure the transmission is not moving whenever I am towing it. It's so easy to destroy it if you do it that way. And if I have a sensor that gives me a warning that it slips out of gear or anything happens. That shouldn't happen because it's supposed to be towable. It will protect the rest of the engine, so. And I might have it hooked up to a brake so it won't let you pull it down the road. I don't know yet. That's future plans. But for now, it's back together. New clutch, new... I went ahead and replaced the throwout bearing just in case that was the source, which it wasn't, I'm pretty sure. But I had a new one, and it was a better one than the one that was on there. So went and replaced that too. I'm going to get it back together and go from there. All right.